So, the M1 iPad Pro is the most powerful machine in its form factor, and it has been my workhorse for the past 4.5 months. Now, I've had a lot of you ask me just how powerful this thing is for music production. So today we're going to put it to the test and throw everything that we can at it in BeatMaker 3. Let's go. Alright, so pulling up a fresh BeatMaker 3 session. We're going to get into it. In this video, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to be making some music live here from scratch, from start to finish, and I'm going to throw everything I can at this thing. So I'm talking about audio recording, effects plugins, instrument plugins. I'm going to be using multiple MIDI devices and audio devices, and we're going to see, is this thing keeping up? And we're going to monitor in the settings here our RAM and CPU to see how we're performing. And I might even check to see how hot it's getting as we're doing it, just something you guys might want to know. Anything you guys might want to know about how this thing performs when you're making beats. Another quick disclaimer, I do not have every plugin in the world. I have the ones that I have, so I'm going to use the ones that I use. I purposefully avoid plugins that are glitchy and aren't well optimized. If it doesn't work well when I download it, I delete it. I'm done using plugins that are not stable. So everything you're seeing here is going to be with stable plugins. Now your mileage may vary depending on the plugins that you use in your music production. So just bear that in mind. I'm going to start this actually with talking to you guys about exactly what's plugged into my M1 iPad Pro. You see one singular USB-C cable, but what you don't see is everything that's running through that. So this is actually a Thunderbolt cable, so keep that in mind. We're talking about the M1 iPad Pro here, and it's capable of Thunderbolt. And so I have a Thunderbolt cable running to a CalDigit Thunderbolt 3 dock. So over here is the Focusrite, and that's what's plugged in. This is the audio interface that's plugged into the iPad through my dock over here. There's my microphone. This microphone right here is plugged into that interface, so we're running that as well. Also plugged into that is this monitor in front of me, which you can't really see, but that is plugged into this as well. Just trying to make sure I got everything covered. Oh yes, this keyboard back here is a MIDI device that is running through this here. This trackpad that you see, this is plugged in as well, and I believe that's it. All that stuff is plugged into this iPad right here, so all that's running while I'm running this session, so keep that in mind. I put links to all the gear I use in my description for every single video, so definitely pop down there. All right, enough blabbing, let's get into it. I'm gonna try to do something I don't even think I've done this on this channel, but I play a little bit of guitar. I'm gonna try to play some live guitar tonight, and we'll see how that goes. I haven't played guitar in a long time, so all right, I'm gonna use this microphone to record. So this is the Blue Spark running into my Focusrite. We're gonna load up a new audio track. We're gonna go ahead and map this to my hardware input. All right, let's set a tempo. All right, here we go. Just for reference, how we're doing, nothing on the CPU. It's just an audio track. Not expecting a whole lot with just an audio track. So we're cruising through this. Once I start adding some plugins, it's gonna get a bit more CPU intensive. So we shall see. Now we're on to adding our first set of plugins. So the plugins I use for effects most often are the FabFilter plugins. And I'm gonna go ahead and, well, first let me go ahead and use a stock plugin. Good SV filter. Just gonna cut out some of these highs a little bit. So far, we're not even touching the CPU. I'm gonna add our first plugin actually. We're gonna go with Pro Q3 so we can go ahead and get a good EQ on this. Gonna cut out some of these lows. All right, cool. So we got one plugin running. Let's check this for reference with one plugin. Yeah, we're still coasting, not even registering on the CPU. All right, and then we're gonna do a little bit of reverb. Let's get some reverb on that. We're gonna use another FabFilter reverb. the Fab Filter plugin for reverb. All right, we're sitting at 4%. Probably should have done this earlier. We're going to hit it with a little bit of compression. Let's EQ this reverb actually. Cut out some of these lows. Alright, cool. So I'm liking how that's sounding so far. We're going to hit it with another plugin. Let's get a little bit of vibro flange. Gets a little bit of pitch wobble. Do a little more vibro flange. Hit it with a little auto pan. Whoa, too much. We'll do every 2 bars. Alright, cool. I'm sure you guys have heard enough of that guitar. We're going to leave it as it is right now. And I'll probably filter it with something else later. But so far, let's see where we're sitting with the CPU. 11%, 12%. Alright, we're chilling. So let's do some more. Alright, let's get our first plugin loaded. Like our first instrument plugin. AV3. I'm going to use some Module Pro. So we're using our first MIDI device. I'm not sure actually to what extent this stresses the device. It probably doesn't much. It's just Bluetooth, but we shall see. You know what? We'll leave module there. We'll add another one. We'll use Flint. Okay, we got 2 instruments loaded, and then I'm gonna go ahead and use some drums. If you're getting value out of this video, definitely hit that like button and consider subscribing. I do this every week, going live for you guys, helping you make dope music. So if that sounds good to you, make sure you subscribe. And we're back to it. All right, let's get some top-down action. Yeah. Let's get that recorded, some drums in, and then we can add some other stuff. Here we go. All right, cool. So now we got some drums going in. So far, we're chilling at 15, 19. Only using 4.34 megabytes of RAM. So I say we're doing all right. All right, back to it. Let's see. 2, 3, and. Yeah, that'll work. Alright, now we just need to duplicate that. I don't know, I got a good amount of plugins going and we're already at 24 and we haven't gotten very far. So far, just a quick test of what we're doing. Oh, I'm over here with the camera on myself. Sorry, folks. Here we go. Alright, so far, we are sitting at 12, 14, 16% on the CPU. Notice the RAM hasn't budged. So far, just so you guys have a clue of what's going on, we have 2 plugins loaded, but only one of them with MIDI data. We have an audio recorded track, and then we have some drums in a bank, and then we have, you know, a good amount of effects on most of these things. So I got 1 on this, nothing on that, and then I got a good amount on this one. So far what I'm seeing is, even though we're only sitting at 12 to 14%, these ones are pretty heavy. Chord Pressor and you know, all of the Fab Filter Pro bundle, those get a little CPU intensive, so just keep an eye on that. I think the more of those we use, we're going to start to see it get some work in. And just for the quick temperature test, yeah, we're sitting cool. This thing's not that warm. Maybe it's warm, but it's not hot at all. So all right, let's get some compression on these drums a little bit. I like it. All right, let's see what we can do with that Module Pro. I think I'm going to take this and put it through an SV filter. We're going to crush a lot of that down. Then I'll probably do a second single value filter, but we'll do a high pass instead. Look at that. So we're kind of just getting the mids basically. And then let's get a little bit of we'll do some more reverb. I know I'm doing a lot of reverby stuff. It's not all going to be reverbed, but I think I also want to use wider after that. So let's add reverb, and then we'll get a good stereo widening going. There we go. Strings pad. Ooh. Yeah, I like the strings pad. The strings pad is good. Here we go. 2, 3, and. think the next thing I want to record is some live hi-hats. So we'll get another live audio track in there. That'll give us a good little stress test here. And then we're going to have to start sequencing this thing out so that we can do some automation. And so far, we're not breaking a sweat, you know? So far, we're chilling. I think I want to start getting some auxiliary percussion in here. Let me get some hi-hats up in here. That's what's next. Ooh, I just got an even better idea. Yeah, dude, I think I'm going to use my snare with brushes. That sounds way better. 2, 3... Brian says you're working harder than the iPad for sure. Yeah, well, I mean that's kind of the idea, you know. If you're doing your job right, you know, you're working hard on the song, and the device should be handling it like a breeze. You know, that's how these things are supposed to work. But yeah, that's funny. That's funny. All right, now we need to EQ this, and then we'll see how we're sitting in the CPU. Here we go. Alright, cool, we got that. Next, I wanted to stereo pan this. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a plugin called Wider. We're gonna sidechain that to the kick. Alright, let's see how we're sitting on the CPU now, shall we? We're sitting at a nice, lovely 23%. I think we're doing alright. Alright, I gotta add some more tracks on here or else we can't call it an ultimate anything. Alright, let's get a bass. That's what we need. New bank. Oh, I heard somebody say Moog, so I'm gonna use some Moog Model D. 1, 2, 3, and... Let's sidechain that too. Let's check our CPU. So now we're hitting about 30%. Trying to get plenty of effects plugins on here. You know, I know there's like a lot of tracks or banks, but to be honest, when you're making music, the stuff that's really going to kill your CPU on any device really is the effects plugins. They're just really generally pretty hefty. So I'm trying to get a lot of effects plugins on these. That's why I'm spending the time going through and just throwing effects on everything. So I have an idea for this one. I'll throw a flanger on those brushes. Ooh. Maybe just chorus? No, we'll do flanger. It's kind of crazy, but I kind of like it. Should probably compress this a little bit too. Nice. Okay, so far so good. Let's see where we're sitting. I think I want to get just a straight up hat. Let's get another audio track in. Hit save. All right, here we go. All right, let's get an EQ on that. Let's sidechain that to the kick as well. Yo, I know I did this before, but I'm totally about to bring in this this here trash can, because I'm telling you, it sounds fire. About to use trash can as some toms. That's what I'm about to do right now. I'm just gonna sample my trash can, and then we'll break up the samples. Choose the input, hardware 1. All right, so. All right, let's see what we got. Now I just need to go in and EQ these. We're gonna boost the lows a good bit, roll off the low lows. That'll work. All right, get a little reverb on the toms real quick. Not much. There's no velocity sensitivity on my screen, so you know what that means. means it's time to bust out the good old Stencil Morph. So that's another MIDI device, you know, we got set up. So here we go. We also need to sidechain this. Alright, I think I've gotten where I wanted to get with like the main loop section. Let's see where we're sitting with our CPU and our RAM. So this is something interesting to keep in mind. When you're looking at CPU in BeatMaker 3, you can tell when your CPU is mostly being eaten by your effects plugins when if you're not playing the music and the CPU is going, because the effects plugins, they never stop refreshing for your sample even when you pause the music. So a lot of the CPU is coming from the effects that I've added. RAM, notice, I mean, it's a far cry from what we were at, which was like 4 megabytes at the beginning, but now we're at 20, but 20 megabytes is nothing. So something to consider is, you know, the amount of RAM that you have on your iPad isn't that important. It's more to do with the CPU, which the M1 is, you know, it's powering this thing. It's doing well. And I imagine if you were to get something like the new iPad mini 6, you're probably going to get either as good as this performance or maybe a little better because it's the new A15 processor in there. So this thing is doing pretty good. We're sitting at 30% or 35, 37. Let's see. Yeah, around 35, 37%. And we've got a hefty amount of effects plugins running. So these are also really powerful pro plugins. You know, I'm using all of these FabFilter plugins. I'm using Koala. I'm using a mixture of the stock plugins, and I'm using Core Compressor, which is pretty heavy. I'm using a lot of really good sounds like Moog Model D, Flinth, Module Pro. I'm using my own drum samples, using 3 tracks of audio, which I know is not a whole lot of tracks, but that's where we're at so far. I'm gonna see if I can add a few more tracks in here, and then I'll give you my final thoughts right after that. So let's keep going. Let's do one more harmonic instrument. Let's get another bank in here. Why don't we use some Ravenscroft? You know what? I might need a bigger keyboard. Just so y'all know, I'm not a real pianist. That's why it takes me so long to get the stuff right. This will be the last thing I add, and then we'll do our final thoughts. All right, here we go. All right, so we're gonna monitor this while we listen to what we've got, and we'll see. So we'll go back over here to our settings, keep an eye on the CPU and the RAM, and then this will be our final run, and we'll see what we're working with. Oh. All right, sitting around 40, 36. Ravenscroft came in, still sitting around 40. Turn it up a little bit. Yeah, so overall, with everything we've done, which is a lot. We've done a lot of plugins, a lot of effects, and we're sitting around 40% on the CPU and not even touching the RAM, basically. So here's my thoughts. Obviously, after this long and drawn out test of this iPad with BeatMaker 3, no matter what I'm throwing at it, we're not getting anywhere near the top of our specs. Like, we've got another 60% of headroom on the CPU. We can do a lot with that. And yeah, I think the M1 is going to be a powerhouse of an iPad. This is the one I use every day with my music production. I never have really any issues with, you know, it not being able to keep up with me. So I think it's safe to say we can load up BeatMaker 3 with a lot of stuff and get some good results. So quick question. All right. What do you think? Based on what you saw today, does the M1 iPad Pro look like a capable machine for music production? Jump down in the comments section and let me know, and I'd love to chat it up with you guys. Let me know what machine you're working with or what machine you're looking at getting to do your iPad music production. I'd be super stoked to hear what you guys are looking at. Maybe you're looking at the iPad Air, the iPad Mini. If there's anything else you guys want me to test, let me know with this iPad Pro. But until next time, creatives, go make something dope, and I'll see you in the next video.